Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting. A huge deal not only for Berkshire shareholder, but for any investor who invests in today's market. Because Warren Buffett is not just an investor, he's an icon that everybody listens to. And his words will be scrutinized not only for a month from today, but for years. And it will have huge implications on markets in general. And I wanted to find out three things from today's meeting. What he's doing with his bank stocks, what he's doing with his airline stocks, and what he's doing with his oil stocks. And in general, I wanted to find out what he was thinking, what he's investing in. The markets were very volatile in the past couple of months, and I wanted to know how he was using his cash pile. So I hope you like this video, and if you do, please click that like button for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe, write me some comments, and come back for my daily updates. So first, let's listen into what Warren Buffett said about oil and oil stocks.
Everything the oil companies have been doing, whether it's Exxon or Occidental or anybody else, it doesn't work at these oil prices. That's why oil production is going to go down a lot in the next few years, because it does not pay to drill. Now, that's happened at other times in the past, but the situation is, you don't know where you're going to store the incremental barrel of oil, and oil demand is down dramatically, and for a while the Russians and the Saudis were trying to outdo each other in how much oil they could produce. And when you've got too much in storage, it doesn't work its way off that very fast. Now, you will have production of oil go down in the United States significantly. It does not pay to drill in all kinds of formations that it paid before, and it doesn't pay to have paid the price that oil was trading at in the ground a year or two ago. And to that extent, if you're an Oxy shareholder, or any shareholder in any oil producing company, you join me in having made a mistake so far in terms of where oil prices went, and who knows where they go in the future.
So my main takeaway from his answer is that Warren Buffett is very bearish on oil producers, and he is very frustrated with oil prices. And he thinks that oil producers will have tough times in years to come. And I know he thinks that his Occidental Petrolium investment is a mistake. And that's why I admire Warren Buffett, because he is not afraid to admit a mistake. And in general, I don't know about you guys, but I am very bearish on any oil stock, and I was bearish before, but even more so after this answer. So let's listen into what Warren says about airlines.
This is a question that comes from William Lewis. He said, please, did I understand correctly, Mr. Buffett, to say that Berkshire Hathaway sold its interests in 4 different airlines? And if so, can you name them? Can the names of those airlines be identified?
Yeah, I wouldn't normally talk about it, but I think it requires an explanation, and it requires an explanation that means we were not disappointed at all in the businesses that they were being run and the management, but we did come to a different opinion on it. And they're the 4 largest U.S. airlines. It's American Airlines and Delta Airlines and Southwest Airlines and United Continental. And I think collectively they probably are at least 80% of the revenue passenger miles that is flown in the United States, and they have significant international flying too, excluding Southwest. So we like those airlines. But we don't. I like the world has changed for the airlines, and I don't know how it's changed, and I hope it corrects itself in a reasonably prompt way. I don't know whether the Americans will have now changed their habits or will change their habits because of an extended period, if it happens that we're semi-shut down in the economy. I don't know whether the trends toward what people have been doing by phone. I mean, it's been 7 weeks since I've had a haircut. It's been 7 weeks since I more than 7 weeks since I put on a tie or anything. I've been just a question of which sweatsuit I wear. So who knows how we come out of this, but I think that there's certain industries, and unfortunately I think that the airline industry, among others, that are really hurt by a forced, in fact, shut down by events that are far beyond their control.
But Warren, just to clarify on his question, he asked, did you sell your whole stake in all four of those
the
companies?
answer is yes. Yeah, when we sell something, we sell something, very often it's going to be our entire stake. I mean, we don't trim positions or that's just not the way we approach it, any more than if we buy 100% of a business, we're going to sell it down to 90% or 80%. I mean, if we like a business, we're going to buy as much of it as we can and keep it as long as we can.
So Warren Buffett sold his entire airline stake. Ouch, that's gonna hurt, because I anticipate a sell-off on these news, and that could be actually a good buying opportunity. And I'm sure that Warren Buffett thinks the same thing, that if airlines drop too much, he could be buying. But in general, he was frustrated with airlines. He thought that the consumer habits could be changed, and that's why he made that tough decision. But in general, I think he lost $1.5 billion, and it was not a good investment, and he admits that is a mistake. And that's why, again, I admire Warren Buffett, because he is not afraid to make that admission and to say that he made a mistake. What can I do? So now let's listen to what he says about banks.
The banking system is not the problem in this particular show. I mean, the government we decided as a people to shut down part of the economy in a big way, and it was not the fault of anyone that it happened. Things do happen in this world. Earthquakes happen. Huge hurricanes happen. This was something different. But the banks need regulation. I mean, they benefit from the FDIC, but part of having the government standing behind your deposits is to behave well, and I think that the banks have behaved very well, and I think they're in very good shape. They are not presently part of Chairman Powell's problem, whereas they were very much part of Chairman Bernanke's problem back in 2008 and 9. Banks are, in the end, institutions that operate with significant amounts of other people's money, and if problems become severe enough in an economy, even strong banks can be under a lot of stress, and we'll be very glad we've got the Federal Reserve System standing behind them. I don't see special problems in the banking industry now. I could think of possibilities, and Jamie Dimon referred to this a little bit in the JP Morgan report. You can dream of scenarios that puts a lot of strain on banks, and they're not totally impossible, and that's why we have a Fed. And I think overall the banking system is not going to be the problem.
So it looks like Warren Buffett is pretty happy about banks, and he thinks it's a big difference between banks in 2008 and banks right now, because they're well capitalized and have huge support from Federal Reserve, and looks like banks are a pretty good investment right now. So I'm very convinced that banks are a good hold and buy and hold opportunity to me. And the last question that I wanted to get an answer to is, what did he do with Berkshire? A huge cash pile, I think it was 137 billion. When stocks dropped a lot, I thought it was a good buying opportunity, but Warren Buffett said he didn't see anything attractive, so he didn't buy much, just a few things here and there. So for Warren Buffett not to buy anything, I don't know how to interpret this, because Warren Buffett is a value investor, and at the same time, I thought it was uncertain how the consumer habits will change and how this disease will affect the buying habits of the consumers. So I think that's the bottom line why he didn't buy anything. Maybe it wasn't attractive enough to him, but in general he didn't buy much things, and but he left it open on the table that he might buy something if he sees an attractive opportunity. So that's it, guys. I'd love to hear what you think about this, and write me some comments. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you next time.